Welcome everybody to another edition of the In the Paint Show presented by Ballislife, episode 150. We've been through 150 of those. We appreciate everybody tuning in every week, listening on audio, whether it's iTunes or Spotify or whatever other listening device they got, and obviously on our YouTube Ballislife network. Ani, how's it going?
Man, going good, busy early part of the week, a lot of basketball, district play, but, everything's good. How about you?
Yeah, everything's pretty good. Obviously, coming off a long week. We're obviously shooting this one day normally later than we do because of MLK weekend. Obviously, it's a big celebration of basketball. It's supposed to be a big celebration of the man himself, Martin Luther King Jr. I want to give a shout out to all the events that did kind of honor. I heard some did honor him, and they either stopped the game. I know one in the Bay Area of California. They actually had some young ladies read like a poem of Martin Luther King and things like that. So that's always good to hear. Obviously, we focus on the basketball, but obviously he was assassinated in 1968, and that was a big time in people's lives. The world was changing a lot, and obviously a lot had to do with him. So basketball's changed a lot. Obviously, this has become a big weekend. So starting about 15 years ago, we delayed the rankings one day because it made no sense to do them on them Sundays when all those games were on Mondays, right? So now we just wait till Monday night and burn the midnight oil, and there is a lot of change in the Fab 50. Obviously, Paul, the Six is still number one. They won their game, but there's been a lot of things that happened. I guess the big thing that happened is Westland. Oregon lost its first game in California at the MLK Classic at De La Salle. That's been going on for 25 years. It's been at St. Mary's. It's been at various places. De La Salle, Concord De La Salle is the whole school. So Westland drops its first game. Obviously, Westland has some great wins, and I know, Ani, you saw Duncanville just recently in the last 24 hours, and that's related to them. And actually, that's why Duncanville dropped the spot this week from 4 to 5 because the team that they lost to lost their first game.
Right.
So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, when I talked to Duncanville staff about that Westland game, they still talk about it like because last year, you remember, they lost to Richardson at the same time frame. So they're just like, man, Westland's a really good team, but they said if we play like we normally do, like we would be undefeated. So they think about that in the rankings. They're like, okay, rankings are what they are, but they just think, man, we could be undefeated and be number one right now. So like, it still bites. Like they're not like mad, but you can tell they're just upset that they dropped that game.
They gave that one away in essence. Yeah. And that makes sense because you follow, again, like we said in our preseason show, you want the teams you beat to do good. So Westland loses to a team that's not nationally ranked, and that doesn't kill Duncanville. They still have great wins. They still they're pulling off a great season. Like you said, they beat DeSoto just recently. But it's like, dang, yeah. So we dropped them a spot to make room for undefeated John Marshall. And John Marshall's looking good because they beat Columbus, and Columbus came away with the win over Sierra Canyon on MLK Monday. Malik Abdul-Ali, kind of their unsung forward, who did really good in the spring and at the border league. He had his moments too. I guess Boozer kind of like lost the ball driving the league. Didn't look like he really passed it. He lost the ball, and it just happened to go right in his hands with like 1.5 seconds. He laid it up for a 1-point win. And that was a very interesting, result there because Columbus playing good, but Columbus has 3 losses, So it's like, and Centennial beat Camden 66-62. That was on Saturday. So Centennial didn't play on Monday, but then Camden came back and played well against Bishop Gorman, who struggled in that game. They beat him pretty handily.
Yeah, it was like
really
almost
over 35. Were you kind of surprised by that, Ani, or were you just like, you thought Camden's probably going to bounce back, play pretty good after losing to Centennial?
Yeah, I mean, I thought Camden was playing good basketball, especially that Centennial game, but I didn't expect a 30-point beating by Bishop Gorman, who have played like Duncanville and Faith Family and those guys close. So I knew Camden was going to bounce back and have a good game, but not that. I don't think anyone expects Bishop Gorman to lose by 30 to anybody, really. So.
Yeah, the only time I could remember Bishop Gorman losing a game like that, they lost to Simeon about 10 years ago. They beat a good Umana team with Jordan McLaughlin, and then they earlier in the season they lost to Simeon just randomly, like 75 49. But yeah, they're not really losing games like that. And like you said, one guy who kind of watches the high school scene, he kind of told me, he's like, man, Camden is really good. I'm like, yeah, they got a young coaching staff. They got they don't have great outside shooting, but he goes, man, that team is really good. They get downhill, they're athletic, they close out, they run, they got size. I go, yeah, they got size and rebounding. So it's a matter of, I think Centennial executes well. They're obviously seniors now. This group has pretty much been together for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Jared McCain had a 27-point game. It just seems like whenever Camden had a chance to, when Camden ever had a chance to make a run, McCain would hit a three.
Yeah, like a timely three.
Just hit a timely three. They actually took a 39-38 lead. He hits a three. Now it's what, 41-38 or whatever. And then Aaron McBride gets a steal and a layup. Now all of a sudden, Centennial's up 5 again or whatever, 4 or 5, and they're rolling again. So close game. And then, Camden kind of make a bucket or two at the end and make it a little closer than it was. Probably a 7-point game, but it ended up being 66-62. So why Columbus moves up right behind Duncanville. So Columbus is 6 this week. Make sure you go check out the rankings on ballslife.com. Columbus is up to number 6. Centennial moves all the way up from 16 to 7. So they obviously both have the loss to Duncanville. That's a common opponent, right? What's hurting Centennials right now is their loss to Wheeler. Because Sierra Canyon has beaten Wheeler, and so has Bishop Gorman. Bishop Gorman just beat Wheeler at Saturday when they beat Camden. So again, Gorman played 2 games. Camden played 2 games. Sierra Canyon played 1. Columbus played 2. They beat San Ysidro. So some played 2, some played 1. And when you look at Columbus's other losses, they're just a little bit stronger. John Marshall, they lost to Columbus at the Chick-fil-A, and then they lost to Imhotep, which plays Camden on the 28th.
Yeah.
So Centennial's lost to Don Bosco Prep, which has lost to Camden and lost to Wheeler. So I just think right now, again, they have Centennial has a common opponent factor that will favor them. But right now, I think Columbus deserves to be 1 spot ahead. Again, we'll see how those teams finish up. We'll see Wheeler's played a really tough schedule.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like 9-6, but all they haven't lost to anybody in Georgia. They've just been traveling the country really. 9-6. They Columbus, Imhotep, Paul VI, John Marshall, Sierra Canyon, and Gorman. That's not really bad losses for a team. I mean, you want to win a couple of those, but that's not really bad.
Right. Yeah. Like those aren't bad teams to lose to.
Not one of them is a bad team. So that's kind of where we stand. And then obviously on that Monday, Montverde, who's number 2, Montverde's playing pretty well. They beat Sunrise Christian pretty handily. Sunrise was coming off a loss to Link Academy in the championship game of the Bass Pro. So they made that trek, Ani, which is not always easy to go from Springfield to Springfield. So they went from Springfield, Missouri to Springfield, Massachusetts. So are you surprised that Sunrise came out kind of flat? They got behind really early. Obviously, after playing Link, we're going to talk to Coach Bill Armstrong, is going to be our guest this week from Link Academy, undefeated. They're 18-0. They're up to number 3. They're right behind Montverde. But were you surprised or how surprised were you that Sunrise maybe didn't play too good against Montverde on that Monday?
I mean, it was predictable, in my opinion. Like, you played, I think that Linkier game, I mean, that was a dogfight. And then you go on a flight, and the next day you play Montverde. Like, of course, they're going to, come out flat. That Linkier game probably still stung, and then you come and you play a team like Montverde and you're flat. Like, they were decent, but I was surprised they even still did made the trip. Obviously, they had it on the schedule, but it's just, that's a tough back-to-back. And
Correct.
It would be one thing if they played it at Massachusetts. They'd have to go to flight, but those flights even take a toll on you as well.
Yeah. We're going to talk to Coach Armstrong a little bit about that, about his team. And, it's not easy to get to 18-0 for any of these teams. It's not easy for John Marshall to, 14-0, Link 18-0, Duncanville 19-1, or now 20-1, obviously after their win over DeSoto. But yeah, it ain't easy to just travel. Like, people, things happen. There's delays. There's, bags missing. I mean, things can happen. So again, that's the state of big time high school basketball, though, right? And you got to get on the road and win, and that's kind of what Duncanville's saying. That's what I was trying to tell people. They're like, wow, Westland beat Duncanville. I go, yeah, it's hard to win on the road, just like it would be hard for Westland to win in Texas.
Oh yeah.
Or like Westland, it was a different story than playing in the Bay Area outside of Oregon. They had some great wins in Oregon. They beat St. John Bosco. They beat, Sierra Canyon, who they're still ranked ahead of. Westland's at 31 this week. They had a drop, obviously, losing to De La Salle, but, and they also beat another good team, Modesto Christian, who's now playing pretty good. Jamari Phillips has transferred off the team, and he's now at AZ Compass Prep. But, AZ Compass Prep took a loss to IMG, their second straight loss. But Modesto Christian's playing pretty good. And like you said, that might even be a little predictable. That was a tough situation. They weren't playing good. A player leaves, and now everybody kind of rallies around because they got other talent. And they got our guy BJ Davis going to San Diego State had a big game. They beat St. Joseph's at that MLK Classic at De La Salle. He had 19 in the fourth, 20, 38 for the game. I mean, kind of just took the game over. Again, that's a good win. So yeah, Westland has some good wins, so they deserve to be ranked. Ani, just before our coach Armstrong gets on, they had a coaching change, obviously, this offseason. They went to GEICO Nationals last year, championship game, their first year being eligible for it. And, what do you think about them? And are you surprised? Obviously, they started high in the FAB 50. They have talent, but are you surprised they're at 18-0 right now?
No, I'm not too surprised. I mean, that team is deep. They have it all. The guard play, even though some of their backup guards are young, but they're still talented. They got a lot of depth in the front court. And they rebound really well. Coach Armstrong, obviously, he's been a Division I assistant for a very long time. So, losing Coach Perry to go into Bill Armstrong, there's nothing that really there wasn't a fall off like that. And so it doesn't surprise me that they're 18-0. They're just deep, they're really well coached. And I just think they have like a little bit of everything, just watching them play, even when they came down to Texas, that they just there wasn't like a glaring weakness with that team. So them being 18-0 doesn't surprise me. And also, like, no offense to them, but them not being in NIBC, and I know that's not their choice, but they're not being in NIBC right now. Their schedule is not like, they're going against AZ Compass and IMG and Montverde, multiple times during the season. But not even taking that away from them, but just I'm not surprised they're 18-0.
Yeah, no doubt. And like we said, they're number 3 in the FAB 50. Ali Cadeau, he's going to North Carolina. They got Jacoby Walter, Baylor. Like you said, they got some guys who can play. Cade Phillips is committed to Tennessee, and again, we'll talk to Coach Armstrong about that and just playing in that tournament. Ani, before our guest gets on, did any result surprise you from this past weekend, or is any team surprising you so far?
No result really. I mean, just Bishop Gorman losing by 30. That was surprising. That Jasir and then that Columbus game was very interesting. That was a very interesting one. I think when you talk about surprise, I just didn't think it was going to be that close, to be honest with you. Just kind of how the game kind of played out. I thought that was like the most. Okay, like that was interesting. Like, I don't know, people really don't talk about a whole lot. I know Cameron Boozer had like 33 points and 15 rebounds, but I thought the game itself was a very interesting one.
San Ysidro's capable of playing pretty good. Obviously, their record doesn't indicate that, but if they put it together, so they can go on stretches where they play pretty good. They obviously have good talent. Yeah, but I'm with you with Gorman. Gorman really plays well at home. For them to lose after Camden, you might think they'd catch Camden down, but like you said earlier, you figure Camden would probably play good after. They didn't play bad against Centennial. They didn't play bad against Centennial at all. Maybe Centennial hits a few more timely threes and executes a little bit better. Again, they got more continuity with veteran players, but Camden, beating Gorman by a lot. Was a little surprising, but I think now we have our guest in the Paint Show, Coach Bill Armstrong of Lincoln Academy on. Coach, can you hear us?
I can hear you guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on. We appreciate it.
Ronnie?
Thanks for joining us this morning before practice. Yeah, Coach, just talk a little bit about that. So you guys talk a little bit about your practice schedule. You guys go normally in the morning every day, or do you have to come back lift? Do you guys lift a lot with weights a couple times a week? Just what's your normal routine as a team that plays at your level?
Well, the way our school's set up, it's set up a lot like college. So, obviously all 12 of our guys it's a lodge, really. It's a really nice setup. They have a lodge here on campus where we have 2 guys to a room. They each have their own California King bed. They have their own bathrooms. It's a really nice setup. I mean, it's as nice as we had in the colleges that I was at.
Sure.
But then they get up in the morning and eat breakfast. We have our own dining hall, just like a college campus. They get up and eat breakfast. We stagger it 2 groups. So they'll go a group at 7:30, a group at 8, and then they lift weights at 8 and 8:30. Our strength coach, Coach Dunges, does a great job with them. And my staff does a great job with them in there in the weight room. And then, we practice at 10. Sometime during this time of year, we'll start film at 9:30 right after the weights. And then we'll watch a lot of film during this time of year. And then we go from 10 to 11:30, 12, again, depending on what time of year, sometimes 12:30. Then they have lunch in the dining hall, and then they have school from 1 to 5. They do all the same classes in the classroom that all, normal high school students take. They just don't have the fluff type stuff that doesn't count towards core, towards their degree, that we take, a lot of people take in high school, where you have your 7 periods, but really only 4 of the periods are actually counting towards anything. So that's kind of cut out. Obviously, we don't have physical education because we practice and things of that nature. So that those times are used there. And then they eat again at 5:30. The dining hall's open. They eat from about 5:30 to 6. And then most nights, again, depending on time of year, sometimes I try, our staff, they get in there and they work them really, really hard individually from about 6 to 7:30. That's cut down some this time of year. That night before games, we don't do that. But if it's not a night before games, they go twice a day.
Twice a day. Gotcha. And that's the reality of big time high school basketball. Like you said, cut out the fluff. And, me and Ani, we like the wood shop and all the other things that we take in high school. But
sure, me too. I needed that for my GPA.
Yeah.
Right.
That was always a nice break in the action. But, you obviously went to Springfield to play in the, Bass Pro Tournament of Champions. Just tell us about that and your team's performance. Obviously, you guys came out there with 3 critical wins, including the championship win over Sunrise Christian Academy.
First and foremost, what a great experience. Have you guys been to that?
Yeah.
I had never been, for whatever reason. I talked about this a lot while I was there. I don't know if, just I happened to be that I was always scouting during that time or whatever. I know some assistants on staffs that I worked with had been. I'd heard great things, but I had never been there. And then when I got here and we were able to, Coach Perry had set it up where we could be in it and participate in it. You hear all this hype and you're like, yeah, okay, there's not going to be 10,000 people at a high school basketball game. And there was, and it was a super exciting experience for all of us, man. And I've been in a lot of arenas, but the fan support and the way the tournament was run from Josh Scott and Jason and all the people there. I mean, I would recommend that tournament for anybody in the country at any level. I mean, they do a great job. And then obviously for us to go there and play well, that makes it even more fun. Our guys we played 3 really, really good teams. And our guys were dialed in and, we had our ups and downs in all the games, but in the end, we played really well and found ways to win.
Sure. Go ahead, Ani.
Yeah, your team's 18-0 right now, Bill. And what's been the key to y'all success so far?
Man, obviously we're super talented 1 through 12. I think we got 12 guys in the end that are going to play Division I. We have 7 guys already going to the Power 5 schools. I think the 4 more of them probably will, or at least, Brian Force is going to Memphis, who is a lot better program than a lot of Power 5 schools. So in my opinion, 7 guys that are going to high major programs. And like I said, our young guys will as well. So, the key to our team all year, and the guys will tell you this, and this is why it's worked, because they've embraced it. And, they've embraced each other. They're a tight knit group. But the key to our team has been our team. We are deep, and we are able to play sometimes 11 guys in a game, and I think we just wear you down. And then obviously, you guys know we got super talented guys, and that talent takes over a lot of times.
Yeah, like Bill, that's what me and Ronnie were talking about. Just with, he asked me if, about you guys going 18. I was like, y'all deep. Like, y'all maybe the deepest team in the country. So y'all have everything, a blend of guard play, front court play, and just talk about the, guys have to step up, in order for you guys to be 18-0. Do you say that's more of a collective team? Like, you just don't, every night is someone different, or has someone really stepped up to the plate this season?
Man, every night they really all have, man. I said that in the press conference after the championship game of Bass Pro. I mean, all 12 guys have contributed in some way or another. Some more than others, some more in the game. But man, our staff, I got to give them credit too. My staff, they get in that gym and they work with those guys every day, and they've prepared them for this moment. And each and every moment in the schedule that we play, and even our 12th man, who doesn't hardly get in the game much, he goes hard every day in practice just to push these guys, and they've all had their moments. I can't think of just one stepping up. Like I said, I think that's what's been our strength is our team. We don't have a guy I think Jacoby averages like 13 points a game, but his efficiency is off the charts as far as what he's been able to do. And for those guys like that to sacrifice what they have, and him getting 27 a game or whatever it was over his career, to sacrifice that for winning, just shows you what kind of kid he what kind of kid he is, and what kind of group of guys we have.
Yeah, that makes sense. A lot of them have to sacrifice their individual accolades in order to make this work. Just going over the championship game real quick. 72-66, like you said, Jacoby 7 of 12, 17 points, four players in double figures. Ali Cadeau, the junior guard going to North Carolina, 16 points, 8 assists, 3 rebounds, like you said. So the collective group effort, like you said, we've already said it here on this interview, the roster was talented coming in, but what's the first thing you wanted to implement to get things going in the right direction and to get to where you guys are now? Obviously there's some adjustment, obviously there's roster turnover, and there's a new coaching, but what did you want to do to kind of implement to get things going in the right direction?
Well, I mean, I'm huge. I think it's all about work ethic and team chemistry. So that's what we wanted to implement from day one. And when we got here, right when you get here, so the whole school goes on a team retreat. I don't know if you guys have been up here. If you haven't, you should come up here. It's an unbelievable place, Branson, Missouri. I had never been here until last year when we recruited Julian Phillips, and then Camp Kanakuk and their campuses and everything that they got going up here. It's really, really cool place, and all the people up here are great. But so when we first got here, it is a campus-wide retreat. I wasn't sure how that was going to work. None of these guys even hardly know each other, much less the other. And now we're going to take them to another campus and do a retreat. And I'd be telling a story if I thought that was a good idea when I wasn't. I was a little skeptical, to be honest with you. And it was unbelievable, man. We went up there and we stayed in this camp like what we live on, but in a different part of Missouri for like 2 days. And our guys just really, really bonded with each other over that time. We did a lot of fun stuff. And from that point on, then we got to work. Then, when we get back the next day, it's time to start working, and we hit the ground running. And we were able to implement both those things pretty quickly. Like I said, some of it was because of that retreat. A lot of it, I attested that retreat that I had nothing to do with. But I got to give Adam Daniez and the people of Link here the credit on that. But it helped us bond, man. You think about this, teenagers going up there without they take their cell phones. It's nothing. None of us have a cell phone. There's no electronics. There's no televisions. We're just going up there playing wiffle ball and skiing and jumping off cliffs, and I mean stuff that you've never experienced. Things that I'd never experienced, and it just it was a cool deal, and that was what I wanted to do as far as getting them to like each other. As far as you're never going to have everybody on every team like each other, but I wanted them to respect each other and enjoy being around each other. And we still try to do that. We meet at my house every Sunday night, and my wife cooks dinner and we hang out, and we try to do that as much as possible.
Sure.
Yeah, Coach, you played for your dad in high school. Coach Gigliola, you coached in Division I for a long time. Obviously, the high school landscape is different since you played in the 90s, and now you're coming back into the high school realm. Talk about the adjustment you had to make coaching 17 and 18-year-old boys now.
I thought it's funny that you asked that question. My father was at Bass Pro. That was the first game he's been able to get up here and see us play and see me coach. And he was sitting on the front row, and my stepmom was there, and she had made, friends with the people next to her, and the guys were asking all kind of questions because they had gotten out there. I told a story about my dad, me playing for my dad, and so people had known that. I told that at the press conference or whatever. And so they were asking her about it, and then they were wanting to ask him questions, and he was like, whoa, 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 whoa. That's not the high school players that I coached.
Yeah.
So I don't really know anything about this kind of level, So, I mean, he coached guys like me. So, he was laughing about that. It's completely different, as you guys both know. I mean, this is like coaching high-level college basketball. So for me, obviously they're a little bit younger, but they all have the same aspirations. That's what I've been so proud of our guys is how they've come in here. They all have a common goal of trying to win a national championship, but at the same time, get better and reach their individual goals. But they all have a common goal, which is to be, first and foremost, the best person that they can be. That's what I love about our group. But also then, it's basketball. That's what they want to do. That's what they want to do for a living. And I admire that and want to help them get there. And that's a lot of what it is in college, as you guys know. And so they all have the talent to do it. And they say, oh, you better have a plan B because only 0.0001 play in the NBA or whatever. And that's true. But not these guys. These guys are up there to a much higher percentage than that, having the opportunity to do it with their God-given gifts and their talent and how hard they work. So, in that sense, to try to answer your question, man, it's a lot like coaching at LSU or Ole Miss with the talent that we have on the floor. We try to do it, my staff and I do everything like we would at a college level. I have Jake White, who's coached at a college level and who was here. And it was a huge part of laying this foundation last year with Coach Perry to get to 34-2. And a lot of the reason that we were able to recruit this caliber of player the following year because of what they did last year, that was the most important thing. And what they did, I mean, there should be a 30 for 30 about that one day. First year program going 34-2 and GEICO is incredible. Obviously, you see Coach Perry with a huge win last night and what they're doing at Kansas State. He's a great coach, and what they did to lay the foundation here and allow us to be able to recruit these guys was tremendous. So, and then you get in here and you got these guys. So we run it, like I talked about the first of the podcast, it's like a college level program. It's a job for them, and they know that. You got to know that going into Division I college, and they knew that coming here, and they really bought into it.
Yeah, that makes sense. They're preparing for what they're going to see very shortly. Coach Armstrong, obviously it's good to win. It's a lot easier to coach probably if you're 18-0 compared to 10-8 or something like that. Obviously. It's always fun. So what are some of the things you do to keep the fellas engaged when you travel to these events? Like you said, it's kind of a college level expectations and atmosphere, but they're still young guys. Like you said, they probably want to, they're still young men. What do you do to keep it fun and keep them engaged and keep them prepared for your guys' next road game or your next trip?
Ronnie, you've been around this game a long time. Like you said, man, being 18-0, that winning cures a lot of problems, or at least keeps a lot of problems from coming up to the surface, right? So we've been able to do that. But again, we got a great group of guys. They really do, and they'll tell you. I don't know how much they like me, but they like each other. So they enjoy playing with each other. They enjoy practicing together and getting better. We do things like I said, like Sunday nights we come over to my house and watch whatever game may be on or play some cards or things of that nature to try to take the edge off so it's not always thinking about basketball. I think that's more like, to me, the off days are more during this time of year is about it's mental as much as anything else. These kids are resilient physically, but I think they need a mental break from it at times. Like I make them on off days, I don't want them going in the gym. I really don't want them thinking about basketball because I think it's just that mental grind can get them, especially at this age. So we've been trying to do that. We've gone and we do weekly things, going over to boosters' houses, going to bowling, just things to try to take the edge off, try to let them, feel like a high school kid at times. I want them to be able to do that. And not put that pressure on. And then when we get in that gym, though, we put that pressure on ourselves. Our journey from day one has been talked about the process of winning the day and being the best team that we could be, and eventually making our mark as hopefully one of the best high school teams to ever play. So that's still our goal.
Sure.
Coach, you talked about Coach Perry and them making the run at GEICO and then making it to the championship game right in the first year. As things go as planned, you guys should make a GEICO appearance as well. Do you guys have any games after February 15th? And if so, like, how do you keep your guys engaged and not come in flat going into GEICO?
As of now, we do not, and that is a great question that I have been pondering. I try not to think about it too much, but have thought about, you have to. What do you do for those 6 weeks? And I honestly don't have an answer right now. I'm still thinking about how we're going to do that. I've never experienced anything like that, So
Sure.
just got to try to manage it like we're doing right now, just a little bit off feel, a little bit off of, obviously being organized and trying to maybe get some scrimmages. We do have a post-grad team here that's really, really good. We scrimmaged them twice in the preseason, and it really helped us get ready for what we were, having to prepare to get ready for this schedule that we've played. They got a good team, and they pushed us to the limit. So, we've talked about playing some scrimmages against them. Maybe we schedule another game or two, but we still haven't really figured it out. The first thing I'm going to do is call Coach P and talk to Jake and figure out kind of what they did last year, because they didn't come in flat at all last year. They came in and played really well, and got to the championship game. So we still got to figure that out, and that's something different that I've never dealt with. Do you guys know why they do that?
Ronnie would know.
Yeah, they certain weekends where they can have the event, I think, on air, broadcasting, and then every team done. I know certain teams, like every team that's eligible, some do have some ties to the state association. So like IMG and Montverde have to finish before the playoffs start in Florida. So everybody has a slightly different situation where,
Right.
let's say Oak Hill was 18-0, they can play 45 games. It doesn't matter,
Right.
So everybody's in a slightly different boat. And I think they have to
So
try
unlike
to
the NCAA, it not being governed by the same governing body everybody has, so it kind of have to. That makes sense.
Yeah, everybody's slightly.
And then in the end, Ronnie, I think what you said the first time is true. It's all TVs. They control everything, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's been traditionally on that, on that weekend. And what's tough, and then another thing you're gonna have to maybe deal with and figure out the date it falls off. Jacoby will probably playing the McDonald's game, right?
Yep.
So he's gonna have to come over. I know that hurt Finley one year. Mick Kumbungo, I'll never forget it. The game was in Chicago, and they had like one of the early of the 4 games, right? 4 quarterfinals, and
right.
Mick Kumbungo's 17 or 18 years old, and he having fun at the McDonald's game, and he didn't play very good that first game. That next day. You know what I mean? So that's always
no doubt. I mean, they dealt with that a little bit. I was kind of in the middle of it with Julian last year because, trying to figure out when he can go and get back. And so, I think that's an issue for a lot of teams.
Yeah, that definitely is a thing. That's kind of, kudos to Kevin Boyle. They've won it so many times. Like, he's kind of figured it out because he's one of those teams that ends early as well,
Right.
So he's done an unbelievable job to win 6 out of 9 and figure that out. I mean, I don't think he'll tell me his recipe.
Don't call. I don't think he's the guy to call. Yeah, so we appreciate it, Coach. We appreciate your time. We know you got to get running to practice. So thank you for jumping on, and good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you guys for having me, man. I'll come on anytime. Really appreciate it. Good seeing you guys. It's been a while.
Yes, sir.
All right.
So, Ani, you see there, he's, and he's being honest. Hey, I haven't been through that break. I need to figure it out myself. So you guys are asking me about it, but he's got to figure it out himself, and that's not always easy.
No, it's not. It's not. I like the authenticity of the answer. He's just like, I'm still trying to figure that out. But that is hard. I mean, you talk about multiple weeks where your boys haven't played and you're trying to figure out how to, 1, keep them engaged, 2, make sure they're not coming in flat. So you got to do scrimmages. You got to be very creative and on, just how, you just get them ready. Like, that's a long time off till they have to play, Ronnie. Like, I know you've seen it for years, but And I know you probably see more so guys coming in flat than they do ready. Like,
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I won't forget that Mika Bungo thing because again, that was the year 2011. So they had won it in 2009, the first one, and then they won the second one, I believe, as well. And then they had Tristan Thompson and Mick in this one, and he was at McDonald's, and he was really excited. I mean, Mick just a excitable kid, and I was like, he ain't gonna get much sleep. I expected he didn't get much sleep. And then it's not like they had the 8 p.m. game; they had like the 2 p.m. game.
Oh,
you know what I mean? They didn't have the 8 p.m. game. They played Dwyer of Florida, and they lost. You know, and they lost in the first round, and they came back and. In Kevin Boyle's first year, they had a big comeback in 2-12 and won the championship again. So they won 3 of the first 4. And then, you know, like I said, that was Kevin Boyle's first year, 2-12 at Montverde. And then like maybe he kind of figured out what to do, what not to do. And then they just like Coach Armstrong said, they started rolling. For him to win 6 of them, that's not easy. Like people will say, oh yeah, he has talent, he has Ben Simmons. It's still not that easy. Look at Oak Hill. They've had the talent over the years, and that wasn't always their brightest moment. You know, like they didn't really fare all that great at GEICO.
Right.
Like you said, they sometimes they just weren't playing good, and they did win it in 2016. They beat La Lumiere at the buzzer. Then La Lumiere won it the next year with their great team with Jordan Poole and our guy in Memphis and Tuggs Bowen, Jaron Jackson Jr. You know, that was just a great team. So. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see that and how it plays out. Like you said, I remember we talked about this in the preseason. I was it with Oak Hill or was with one coach, or we mentioned that he wanted to end his season later because he didn't want that big break. I think it was with Luke Barnwell from.
That's who it was. It was with Luke. Yes.
Yeah. We wanted to he wants to end the season a little later because they lost that first game. You know, to Prolific last year. So that's always a big thing for those 8 or 10 teams, whoever might get invited. And for Coach Armstrong, it's going to be his first go round. So, and again, Ani, if let's say they're 27-0 at that time or whatever, that's going to be a big thing because again, look what happened to Sunrise. You know, our guy,
right.
You know, from Prolific hit that shot and they beat him in the last, you know, in the first time, I think the 1 seed had lost like that. So, very interesting at the top. Again, we said Montverde comes in at number 2. We still have Paul the 6th, number 1. They won again last night in league. Link is 3. So go to ballslife.com. Again, all the Monday results are included there on for what's going on this week. Camden. Let's jump back to them a little bit. So you know, they played Kenwood. Kenwood got the big win over Simeon. Coach Mike Irvin's club jumps up to number 27. Simeon drops 14 spots, down from 14 to 28. They're 16-1. So they're going to play Camden at DePaul this Friday in Chicago, which would be the 20th. And then by the time Camden plays Imhotep the following week, we'll have the McDonald's team announced. We'll see if Jacoby Walter makes it. So Camden, they got the big games coming up. They're still playing pretty good. They're not playing great at every time. Their right. Jump shooting still needs a little bit of a work in progress. But in your opinion, you know, many people think DJ's the number 1 player. Is he playing up to expectations on him? And then the second part of the question is, who can be number 1 if it's not him?
I think definitely lately, this past month or so, I think he's been playing to expectations. You know, he's had a 27-point game, 6 rebounds against Centennial. He's been having good performances. Like you said, the jump shooting isn't great, and I think that kind of affects him being able to get to the paint and score, even though he's skillful, like finishing around the basket. But I think he's been playing good.
Yeah.
You know, when you talk about who could be number 1 in that class, you can go multiple guys. That 23 class is very. Like we talked about it before, I'm not even going to go into it, right? So, like, we got Isaiah Collier, who I know a lot of Westside had number 1. For me, is Justin Edwards from Imhotep Charter, just a 6'7" lefty, can score, is really rebounding it well, utilizing his teammates, and I think Modest Bazulis. Bazulis, I'm probably botching his name, from Sunrise. You know, just a kid at his size and can score the way he does. He fits that profile for the next level. For me, I think like Justin Edwards, Matas, DJ Collier, that's your 4. And then, but I think whoever out of that 4 you can go with. I don't think he's just a clear-cut number 1 when we talk about DJ, but I do think should be in your top 3 to 4.
Gotcha. And he, like you said, he's playing like a number 1 player in this class. That I totally agree with. He's been playing pretty good. Guys can't stay in front of him. He gets in the key, gets that jump stop. I mean, he's probably the best in the country at doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That power dribble, jump stop, and then he can go right or left. I mean, he does that really well, you know. And he can finish to the right or left and finishes good both ways. And he's doing a good job. You know, you mentioned Imhotep. They played Cardinal Hayes and our guy Justin Edwards. 62-59. Imhotep with the win. Justin was 25 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, 6 steals. So that was a big game for him in front of NBA scouts and in front of most national media. Obviously, he's going to Kentucky as well, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so he's part of that class. So Imhotep's doing really well. You know, they did. They are a 14 in the Fab 50. They had that loss of Simeon. So now they're behind Lutheran, Long Island Lutheran. Now the Long Island Lutherans wins over IMG coming to play because IMG's now beat Compass twice. So IMG's got to be back in front of Compass. Compass kind of takes the big drop this week. Imhotep, like we said, is playing pretty well. And Imhotep, you know, they Paul VI has a loss to Columbus. So Imhotep has the 2 losses against teams ranked lower, but Imhotep's going to have their chances. They got to obviously win that Philly Catholic League, and then they got the big game coming up against Camden, which, you know, in many respects can be like a 1 versus number 2 games with DJ and Justin.
Right.
You know, what do you think about Kenwood? Obviously, they got the big win over Simeon. You know, they're tough. Coach Irvin's got them playing well. Dai Ames hit the free throws at the end. I think he had about 27 points. Kansas State commit. You know, playing in Chicago, do they got a chance against Camden, or is Camden going to get the road win?
I mean, Camden was talented. You know, just looking at that team, they're a talented group. They just always, even though they have a few losses, but some of the losses that they had were just off. Yeah. I thought it was more just a chemistry, trying to get a feel and, you know, getting together. And now that was a big win against Simeon. Like you said, that's the first time they beat Simeon. They have a chance against Camden. Camden has more, I don't want to say star power, obviously more star power, but I think they're a little bit deeper. But Kenwood is talented enough to keep up. And then if they're close at the end, I think they can get the win. Yeah,
that's very interesting. You know, I talked to Coach Irvin a little bit. He's a little fired up, especially after beating Simeon 46-43. You know, so actually I said he had 27. He had 20 points. Dai 6 rebounds, 4 steals. But yeah, he mentioned Solomon Mosley. Solomon Mosley, like you said, is going to have to play good, and he's going to have to play good against. He's 6'8", kind of a rugged guy. He's going to have to play good against the big man going to Kentucky. You know, right. That's going to be key. They got to slow him down, or again, sometimes Camden doesn't get the ball to him. But they're going to have to try to slow him down in this game a bit. Like you said, they're going to have some inside advantage or make Camden hit some outside shots. Yeah, you know, going back to DJ, you know, I believe he was like 0-5 for 3 against Gorman, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe he did 1 or 2 against Centennial. And I saw him against Columbus. And he didn't really – he turned it on a little bit, but he didn't shoot that well in the first half, shot a little bit better in the second half. Is that part of his game just going to come, or is that always going to be something where people are going to like, because he's not 6'6", 6'7",
right?
He's going to have to shoot that thing better, Ronnie, or do you think something like you think it's just natural progression and he's going to get better as he gets to college and ultimately in the NBA?
Well, I believe so. I believe that he will. But you know, Ronnie been around a long time. You've seen guards that were questionable shooters or below average shooters in high school, and they didn't really figure out in college.
Yeah.
I've heard DJ has a really good work ethic. It's all about just the work ethic and the confidence to release. I think he needs some work on his jumper, especially just on the catch and shoot. He does a lot of things off the dribble as well.
Sure.
But I think in due time he can get it, but he'll need to get it. The paint's going to be a lot tighter when you go into college.
Yeah. He's not going to just drive through guys like he does now. Yeah, 14 points he had in that. Again, they blew out Gorman. 1,
Right.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys in double figures, but DJ was 0 for 4 from the 3. Let me go look at the Centennial box, and I want to just kind of get so I'm not mistaken here. 1 of 5 from 3, 27 points, 12 of 23. Again, so 1 of 5. That's 1 of 9 in hoop hall, and if you add in the Columbus game, which was down in Miami, that's probably like, again, 1 of 9. That's probably like 2 of 3 of 15. You know what I mean? So again, he's going to have to just continue to work on that. And they have some big games coming up, and we'll see how he goes. And by that time, next week, Ani, we're going to have our guy Horace right here from Atlanta. I think we're going to Horace to come back on. Horace was on last year talking about the McDonald's breakdown. And by this time next week, we're going to wait. Hopefully, Ani works in our schedule. We'll wait till the McDonald's team is announced, and then jump on instead of jumping on while it's being announced. And obviously DJ will be on that team. And the question I would have for you regarding that is, who is going to be your surprise prediction? We talked a little bit about the Mikey and Ronnie thing last week, but who's going to be the surprise guy that gets on?
You know what? We talked about this a couple episodes, and I started to ponder and think about this more, Ronnie.
Yeah.
I think Bronny James gets in.
Surprise. He's going to be the talk of the town, basically, which is normal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I thought about it some more. I was like, that's a crazy question. And then I thought about everything going, and I was like,
yeah,
I think he can get into the McDonald's game. Like, I should not be surprised if he gets in. I think that would be the surprise pick.
Okay. Yeah. I think the borderline picks for me, I'll say 2 guys from California, Dusty Stromer going to Gonzaga, and our big guy Dennis, who's been a guest on this spot. He's ranked pretty high by certain outlets, but I'm still not sure they've seen him like, oh, I'm going to pick him for the McDonald's game. It wouldn't be out of the realm that he makes it, but I think he's one of those borderline guys. And it may be, again, if Bronny makes it, that's a spot for somebody on the West that would make it, So, those are the 2 guys that kind of cut in my mind that I'm like, ooh, they're on the border for me. Obviously Caleb Foster will make it. I'm assuming he's going to be on the West team. The Duke bound guard, obviously him and Jared McCain. I think Jared McCain's going to make it. So again, it just becomes a numbers game, 24 guys. And hopefully our guy Horace is on, and our girl Chelsea. Chelsea's playing like in an in-season cup, so she couldn't join us today. She'll be back. Chelsea's, trying to whatever no bonus Chelsea can get, she's going to try to go for it. So she's locked in on
championship game.
Yeah, she couldn't jump in. She's in a championship game or in some kind of cup, and we'll talk to her about that a little bit when she gets back. But we're just breaking down the FAB. Like I said, we appreciate everybody listening in. 150 episodes. Wow, Ani. In the last year, what's been your favorite episode? What's been stuck out to you the most?
I would say my favorite episode was that draft episode. It was just fun, just the interviews, just about the picks, like us getting the picks, seeing who's going to get announced and breaking the players down. Yeah. Just the preparation to do it, like it was a lot, but it was really rewarding. At the end, I would say that was my favorite episode.
Yeah, that was a great episode. It was in June, right before the draft, the day of the draft. We were able to get some good like you said, Kristen Peak came on, Matt Babcock came on, and we appreciate Matt, what he does on the Ballislife.com as well. Make sure you guys check out his stories. He's writing a few more stories. Chelsea's throwing a couple things up there, and we're going to have Chelsea kind of speak a little bit more about the pro experience. That should help out a lot of young ladies who talk about a pro. And Chelsea's played for WNBA teams and plays 10 years overseas. But just what she's going through, we want to hear about her preparation, adjustments, that kind of thing. Because as we joke about it, like, it's not like not playing in the NBA, retiring from the NBA. If you're prudent with your money and smart, you in essence don't have to really work or jump right into another career. You may have, you don't have to. If you're making, $150 million over 10 years, or Chelsea's in a different boat, and most women are in a different boat. When they finish playing, they gotta transition to something, Ani. So we want to know about that. We're going to talk to Chelsea on the pod, and she's going to write a few things up on the website about that. But, that is going to be very interesting. But I'm with you on that. That was very rewarding. Then it was very interesting because we had, the thing I remember most is Jaden Hardy kind of dropping.
Yeah.
Our guy Jaden Williams from is that his name, from Santa Clara? I forgot his name.
Jaden Williams. Yeah.
Jalen Williams from Santa Clara. He goes high. Our guy Dalen Terry, who was a guest, goes 18, but Dalen Terry's not in the green room, and he has his own party. And then, Jaden Hardy falls, and now he's playing pretty good. He's had a couple good games, a couple 20-point games. He's been in the G League. Dalen's been in the G League. Other good players have dropped to the G League. Our guy Sharif Cooper.
He's had some good games.
Yeah, he had some good games. He didn't get drafted, right? Did he get drafted? No.
Sharif Cooper?
Did he get drafted?
He got drafted. Hawks.
He got drafted late?
Yeah, it was a little bit later, yeah.
Okay, very interesting. Yeah, Jabari Smith from Auburn, who's been a guest on our show. After the Pangos camp that he played in kind of blew up a little bit there. He was mentioning that pretty interesting that happened the other night. His dad played when LeBron was playing
his first game.
That's interesting, Jabari was giving LeBron the business a little bit about it and joking about it. So that's awesome, So yeah, that was a great episode. I'll go with that as well, for at least in the last year. Obviously, in the past, I like talking about the great high school teams. That was one of my favorite ones. We brought on Steve Bake from Chino Hills. We brought on Jeff McGinnis and Steve Smith, and we brought on Kevin Boyle from Oak Hill, and we brought on Herman Harriet from Baltimore Dunbar. So those four, we kind of got different takes and feeds from teams from different eras, and it was very interesting. Obviously, speaking of some of the guys who knew Kobe Bryant was incredible. That was, Ani, that was already 220. That seems like so long ago. Again, go back and listen to those audio versions if you want. Like we've done, this is 150. We've probably done Ani, maybe 25 on video.
Yeah,
25, but the first 100 were on audio, and there's some that are still relevant. Obviously, some are only good in the time frame of the show. You know what I mean? Because we're talking about Fab 50, we're talking about something that came up. We also had some great Ramogi Humo. Got to give him a shout out. He's kind of one of the, I guess you call them forefathers, or kind of the leaders of NIL and getting that through. I mean, that's changed sports.
Yeah.
He started that. Go listen to that episode. I believe it's 53. Came out a couple of times. Ramogi Huma, former UCLA football player who got a group together to talk about players' rights. And at the time, Ani, 25 years ago now, I mean, he had a hard time at first even getting his teammates to understand exactly what he was trying to do.
Wow.
Then he got groups on UCLA to non-football players to join the group. Then his next step was kind of getting what am I trying to say here? He's getting unions to kind of look at what he's doing and get advice from unions, workers unions. They kind of helped him. And there was a big case regarding that versus the NCAA. I think it was Northwestern football. Can they unionize?
Right.
That was a big case. And then he went to speak in front of senators and that kind of thing, the legal part. And that's when the case played for play. So it was a 20-year journey. It was first to get people to understand what he's even doing, then to get other athletes involved, then to get unions involved, and then to get the legal part involved. And the legal part is what set this all off, right? The California Play-to-Play Act, and then every other state followed suit. And then in July 2021, the NCAA had no choice but to follow suit, you know. So here we are today. You know, those were probably the most memorable episodes. Like you said, the draft one is always cool. Some of the stuff about the historical things that I personally like, and then those NIL ones were really important with Ramogi. So go back and listen to those. Like we said, we appreciate everybody who listens to the podcast. We'd like to shout out the other podcasts, Noble and Rouge, the Retro Room. It's in the game. Those guys do a good job. You know, again, check out the Fab 50 every week. Again, we're on a delay. This is a special episode because of MLK. Ani, I gotta ask you real quick, man.
All right, come on, man. I'm waiting for the tough question. I was waiting for the tough question. Let's go.
What's going on with this statue in Boston, man? What's going on with this statue in Boston with our guy with Martin Luther King and his wife? I just look at the statue real quick and I'm like, I get it, then I really don't get it.
I don't get it either. Like, I saw the picture that is supposed to, you know, be, and then I see the statue and I'm like, is this like I don't know what that is. Like it looks like just a sculpture or just something, like, you know, like it's just a bad, I ain't gonna lie, it's a bad representation. It's like, I was like, I get it, but
I don't.
I don't, and I really don't like that this is the final product that was unveiled. Like,
that's a lot of money to put up that statue, Audie. That's like, god dang, you know. So I'm with you there. I don't know what the city of Boston's thinking, whoever did it. I'm not really sure.
It's bad. It's bad. Like,
come on. I mean, the guy is one of the most you know, important people of the 20th century and maybe in American history. And it's like, what are we doing here?
Right.
So I had to ask you that. I saw that. I said, boy, what is that?
They could have kept it simple.
Yes.
And it would have been 20 times better than that. I thought,
why not just put a statue of him in Coretta?
That's what I'm saying. That's simple.
Yeah, just him in Coretta. Just, you know, obviously our guy Ron Naclerio, who's been a guest on the pod, he had his story on TNT about his, you know, his father. We didn't even talk to him about that the episode we talked to him, because he was just going off about Skip and everything he was talking about. But, you know, Naclerio's story is crazy. His dad, Emil Naclerio, is a surgeon. He saved Martin Luther King Jr.'s life, basically, in essence, from a deranged woman who stabbed him with one of those old mail openers. Ani, those, I don't know if you've been around long enough. The old school mail openers are sharp, bro. Those things are heavy, and you could jack somebody up with one of those.
Yeah, you can mess someone up for real off that. That's what happened. He got stabbed from.
Yeah, Martin Luther King in 1958, I believe, got stabbed from one of those mail openers. And again, I think they kind of make them now with plastic or hard. Back then, everything was heavy and metal, Ani. And kids' toys, those paper cutters. Have you ever seen one of those big box paper cutters? Man, them things are heavy and dangerous, bro. Like, you know, we didn't think about it back then. We had it when I was a kid.
Right.
Teacher didn't play, you know, like, don't be touching that thing. And, you know, it was almost like the teacher's pet. It was the only one that could touch one of those things, you know, like,
wow. Oh, wow.
Because those things were sharp, bro, you know, and they're heavy. So, like, irons were heavy. You know what's really heavy, Audie? I'm getting a little off the subject.
No,
I have it. My grandma's waffle maker, bro. It's heavy and metal. Like, if you got mad and your wife got mad at you and threw that thing at you, you'd be a
you know why you say that? When you say that, my mom had when I was growing up, my mom had a waffle maker. Obviously, this is later, but like in the 90s, and those were heavy too. Like, my mom needed like two hands, make sure like it was big. I was like, yo, like, and it took a long time to make waffles. So like,
they didn't warm up like they do now. Yeah, it takes a long. You have to know how to warm it up. Back in the days, like, everything was warming up. Cars.
Right.
Appliances, you had to warm stuff up, not like it is now. So that's pretty interesting and funny. But yeah, things were heavy. Toys were made much better, you know. The thing I could think of, a toy that I had, was Voltron. The Voltron that that cartoon. The metal, that die-cast metal was nice. It was just a nice toy, you know. So I'm glad I came up then, and the toys now are cheap. I don't even know. Do kids even have toys anymore? Or do they just play on videos?
They get to a certain point, you know. Most kids, when it comes to Christmas shopping, most of these kids, when they get to 8, 9 years old, it's electronic. It's electronic. Like it's cute when they're babies, but they ain't play with no toys past like 6, 7 years old now.
No, that's pretty interesting, man. But so we appreciate again episode 150. We appreciate everybody, and we're gonna just kind of switch gears a little bit. We're talking with Coach Armstrong from Link Gear Academy, number 3 team, and they have a chance to, you know, again, they can win this whole thing, Ani. They really can. They're that good. But let's talk about something a little more serious. You know, college. We talked about the adjustment of college with Coach Armstrong and getting ready, and he made a good point. Getting the fluff out of the academics, you know, wood shop and all these things that don't count toward the NCAA core. They go twice a week, but you know, wanted to ask you about like this thing with Alabama and Darius Miles, and he reportedly provided a gun in the killing of a 23-year-old woman. And you know, are you surprised like that? You know, there's a lot of guns out there like that. This kind of stuff doesn't happen more often, or you think this is just, you know, do college teams and again, football teams have way more players, so they probably have more problems with it. But like, is gunplay and that kind of thing a big problem, or is it just kind of isolated?
I wouldn't say it's a big problem, but I think you do see it probably more so than you really should. I mean, you shouldn't see it at all, but you know, when kids especially are getting a certain amount of money and are able to, you know, purchase guns and stuff like that, I think we'll see more of an issue of it. I don't say it's like just a huge problem, but you're going to see it. And it's just really disappointing. Like when you read this story about like Darius Miles in that situation, it's just so preventable, right? Like we talk about all these situations that happen, Ronnie, and it's just like this right here is like, okay, it's 1 something in the morning in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Like, what are you doing? You know, like, what are you doing? But
I think of a threat was that young lady to anybody or to, you know, what is she? Right. She's not a threat to you. What, you know, what, even if she did something that, and I'm not saying she did, I'm just saying that even if she did, it wasn't a threat to you. You know what I mean?
No. And I see more guys, like, you know, I seen players, even when I played, you know, they had guns, you know, and more instances you saw maybe like a house party and they shoot in the air or something like that. But I mean, this situation is just so sad. I ain't gonna lie, Ronnie. It's so preventable.
It's preventable. Yeah. And you know, obviously Chelsea's not on. We'd ask her about from the women's side, and I would know, I have an idea of what she would feel, but it's like women just got so many things they have to deal with on a college campus. Safety, walking to class at night, walking home to their dorm, that type of thing, you know. And it's just a lot. It's sad, you know what I mean? Like you said, it's unfortunate. We hope we don't see this, but like you said, as players become more financially, I guess, stable or more financially prowess because of NIL, we're going to see stuff like this or something similar. I just saw this tweet not too long ago. Sua Cravens, who played in the NFL from USC football, and he was like, "Man, I lived with 7 people my freshman year at U. I had no money." He's like, I had no money, and this guy who, you know, was a starting safety as a true freshman, first one at SC like in many years, 12 years, I think, since Taylor Mays maybe, and he's like, he had no money. That's not going to be the case going forward. If the next Stuart Cravens comes and he's a top 25 player in the country and he starts at a SC or Alabama or LSU or something, he's going to have some money in his pocket.
Facts.
You know, what does that entail at an 18, 19-year-old? You know, not everybody's locked in like the guys at Link, right? Some kids get them on a college campus and they go wild. You know what I mean? So You know, maybe we'll talk to somebody about that in the future. Obviously, me and you are not experts in that field, but maybe we'll come back to that. What are some of the problems that NIL has created?
Right. Yeah.
Just kids buying cars that they don't know that, you know, what's going on. You know, there could be anything. So, but yeah, real. Our condolences goes out to the young lady who was killed down there in Tuscaloosa. And then another thing, we talk about gunplay or violence. Ani, two things that people have to do. Three things, I should say. Three things is, and my doctor said this when I was younger. You know, they'd be kind of cocky. You know, they say they're like, you know, doc, what should I do? I'm 25 at the time or whatever. Maybe I was your age, 30 at the most. And they would say, well, oh, like kind of really like cocky, you know. Oh, just wear your seatbelt, don't speed, and don't smoke cigarettes. That's all they told me. They're like, get out of here. Like, you're healthy. Get out of here. I got to go to another patient. So the reason I bring that up, Bonnie, is like, it sounds simple, but like there's still a lot of people that don't do that, young kids. So what I'm talking about is that Georgia football player Devin Willock, he's 20 years old. He perished in a crash 2 miles from campus, from Georgia. And again, we talk about the speeding and the not wearing the seatbelt. Like, those are just deadly for our age, you know, that age of 20 years old and to be young man. And honestly, me and you are kind of out of that age bracket, but that's a huge thing. We talk about guns, we talk about
right.
But shit, just wearing your seatbelt and speeding is the big thing, really, at that age. So
yeah,
talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, it is. You know, especially when you have like a nicer car or whatever. Like, you know, when you're just driving, you're in the highway, you're in college, you're away from your family. Like, you're going to speed and
sure
and have fun, and it's just, you got to be careful at the same time. I think a lot of accidents, you know, it's always that last second. I think in this situation with the Georgia player and the employee, the staffer, the girl is like, I think she was trying to turn and and it was something going on, and then like she crashed. You know, they crashed, and just stuff like that happens so much. You know, there's kids like I see in high school locally here in Dallas that just die from car accidents or are severely hurt and they can't play anymore and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, they were going 100 miles per hour, or they turn and they didn't realize someone was in their blind spot. And those are things, like you said, like the doctor, your adults, they tell you like, hey, just be careful on the road. My mom still to this day say, hey, be careful on the road. You know, I'm 30 years old, and it's just those little things. It's always that, okay, you probably shouldn't go 100 right now.
Yeah.
Or
we
you
all go 90. Ani, you hit 90 and 85. I mean, we do. Let's be honest. I still do. I don't hit 100 really, but I'm still hitting 85 all the time.
Exactly. Like when you turn, make sure someone's not in your blind spot, or don't turn just real rapid. And, you know, it just, at that age, you're having so much fun, especially like they just won a national title. Like,
they just have won the national title.
Yeah, but still have to be careful. We've seen so many times. I mean, obviously this wasn't a car incident, but like Len Bias, like a few days, like a day after he got drafted, him doing when you see great moments and people having their moments. Yeah. Unfortunately, we sometimes see situations where they're doing something, then they pass that next day because they just were reckless at that moment.
Yeah, reckless in the moment. Yeah, you know, you kids out there, if you have any young kids, is slow down, put on your seatbelt. You know, I guess some other people were in the car. They had minor injuries they had on their seatbelt.
Right.
And, you know, Ani, I'm still that type that, like, I'll adjust my phone, my Bluetooth headset, my Bluetooth. I'll put the food away. I'm still bad. I put on my seatbelt like 5 minutes down the road.
Oh, really?
You know what I mean? You know, some people I'm still one of those dudes that put it on a little later. Right after I take off, I still have that bad habit. I need to get out of that. You know what I mean?
My car won't let me do that. My car will.
Does your car have that ignorant noise?
Yeah, it'll go for about 3 minutes. Like it, you know, unless I just want to hear that for 3 straight minutes and my ears ringing, then I can't do that.
Yeah. That's good. I think I'm gonna stay with the old car so I don't have to hear that ignorant noise. You know what I mean? Like, but hey, it's for a reason, and it saves lives. So yeah, young people out there, slow down and put on your seatbelt and chill on the gunplay. One thing I wanted to go back, and we'll jump off. again, we appreciate everybody staying with us for 150 episodes, and hopefully we have 150 more, is what Coach Armstrong said. The guys preparing for this level, and just he was mentioning his schedule. They have a eating regimen on it. They go twice a day when they don't have a game the next day. And it's like he said it. He's been at the college level 20 years. It's like college. It's not like when he was in high school. Is that kind of the mindset of a great high school player now? Like, is that because people are easy to say, oh, why did he leave? Why did he leave? Especially some traditionalists. Oh, that kid that was a dumb decision. He went to a prep school. But is what Coach Armstrong mentioning one of the main reasons why kids do it?
Yes, I would say so. Obviously, the exposure part, but that too. Even the kids that that I've talked to, that it didn't pan out when they went to these prep schools, they come back learning a big lesson on work, on work ethic and what it takes, and film room studies and stuff. Not saying that we don't get that at the public school level, but Ronnie, it's different. Like what he's talking about, what they're doing, you're not seeing that down the street at the public school. So a lot of kids, when they come back, even if it pans out or it doesn't, that's the one thing that they realize that's what they have to do in order to be successful. And I think that's a big part of why they go to these prep schools and they go out of state, is to be in that grind and make basketball more of a focus.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I wanted to bring that up because I think it's a little bit of a bad rap. The reason I'll mention this is because I got a phone call from a kid who's going to be a D1 player recently. And he was thinking about next year going to a prep school. And it rings something with what Coach Armstrong said earlier in our pod. Their scheduling is because he said, yes, he has good grades and he's going to get a D1 scholarship. I did tell his father, whatever he does the rest of this season and in the spring and summer is going to determine his level, not next year.
Right, right.
Well, he agreed with that. He goes, but the problem is because the other kids on campus, they goof around, they kind of loaf through practice sometimes. They're not as serious. So I think that's the bad rap sometimes kids get, is they want to be in a more serious basketball environment, kind of like what Link Academy, what Armstrong described is like serious, like for guys who are trying to get to the NBA and who are going to be playing major college basketball. Right. So I think that's where the father was like, my son is not getting what he needs because the other 10 kids are just not that serious about the game. Like you said, it's just a school. They're just playing for fun, for recreation. They enjoy it. But this other kid, the kid who's maybe leaving is really trying to get super serious. So do you think, Ani, that they get a bad rap and that should be considered before you people knock a kid? It should be, do we always know the circumstances he's in and to the level that he really wants it? Because maybe he's been around some college players, or maybe he's been to a college teen camp, or maybe his dad or his uncles or somebody knows what it takes. They've been around. Hey, you need to get serious about the game. And that's kind of what Link and some of those schools are for.
Yeah, I think once you understand the situation, because sometimes we may see a kid that leaves and they had a great season with their program, right? But they're not working out twice the hours. Maybe it's hard for them to get into the gym because some assistant coaches, they got to go back to their families and stuff like that. Like a Link, you got Jake, like Bill talks about, like Jake White, he's in the gym all times. Even Oak Hill, who's struggling, but they can get into the gym till like what time? You talk about like 11 p.m.
Yeah, 1 a.m. They can get in there and shoot if they want. Yeah.
Right. And that, when there's schools that don't, a lot of public schools don't provide something like that, I would say about 99% of them don't. So that's hard. If that's what the kid wants, and maybe he's having a hard time getting access to the gym, and he knows he goes somewhere where it's a more basketball environment, then I don't think people look into all that. Like, a kid like him is serious. He's really trying to get his game to another level, and maybe he's having difficulties within the school that he's at to do that. So if he wants to leave, then let him leave and get into an environment like that.
Yeah. Exactly. So my point of bringing that up, don't knock them so fast. Every
Right.
situation is different, and sometimes they're not in a serious, super serious basketball environment because the teammates are not going to be playing at the next level, and they're going through the motions. They're just, they're just playing high school basketball, and that's okay too. But
Right.
yeah, my point of bringing that up is don't always knock a kid right away when you hear he's leaving, because it could just be a situation where he's trying to get more serious about his craft.
Right.
I think one of the guests we had, Steve Smith, mentioned that with Chris Livingston, if I'm not mistaken. He's like, Ronnie, he looked at the team schedule in Ohio, and he's like, I'm not going to play anybody that's going to challenge me at my position. He's like, Coach, I kind of got the feeling Chris was like, he didn't really necessarily even almost wasn't like, oh, damn, I'm really dying to go to Oak Hill. He just almost had to.
Right.
So, to get ready, like, this is a serious business. There's serious money to be made. Like, it's a serious thing to try to get into the NBA draft. Like, you got to put yourself in the best position if you're a kid like Chris Livingston.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, the point of that is, the point of me bringing that up is, we hear about kids leaving and going to school like Lincoln and other schools. So it's not always a knock, like, don't knock them. There's a reason why they may be doing it. And sometimes, like you said, Ani, it works out. Sometimes it doesn't. And we'll see how that goes. But
and even if it doesn't, they're okay. Even if it doesn't, they come back, learn. They come back and they learn something that helps that kid.
Correct. They should have learned something, like you said. And some leave as underclassmen and then come back.
Mm-hmm.
That's happened to our guy Dink Pate. I know you wrote a story about that with Dink, and he was at Prolific for a while. So again, you learn something, you mature, you get away from your family. There's a lot of positives as well. It's not always negative. So
right.
Again, we appreciate everybody that follows the Fab 50. We appreciate everybody on the pod. I think that will do it for episode 150. For Ronnie and Ani, and for Chelsea, who's not here, and again, Horace. Hopefully we get Horace next week.
Come on, Horace.
We need Horace back on the pod. As our guest analyst, he's kind of part of our crew, even though he doesn't come on all the time. Horace is one of our guys. So again, we appreciate it. But for now, me and Ani are going to log off.